In 100 years, 10 million people will replace all of us. But for now, we are here.
I met Coda on the subway. She was singing on the subway in 2018. I was still in film school. And we just kept in touch over like Instagram and text. I think in 2018 we met up. We went to Coney Island. I took pictures of her and met her maybe at another time in 2019 when I was thinking about doing this. Originally, the film was supposed to follow several characters. It was like about vignettes of different characters, but she was always the spine. So when it became just her story, I shaped the story a lot to what some things that she told me and some of our conversations, and she was a really an inspiration and a really great collaborator. And
a lot of nightmares started here. Hey, I hate it here. I think I want to keep it. I love it here.
The thing that really stuck with me was like the feeling of it, the way it was shot, the handheld camera, which gave it this sort of documentary-like feeling. Was it something you were going after?
Yes, we looked at Rosetta from the Dardenne brothers a lot. And then also like working with first-time actors. I think I love doing doc style because it feels less set up. Then as far as using their real names, I like it's really nice to catch these offhand moments where they're talking to each other and they're saying each other's real name. You know, the way I love to work is like we don't always have to say action. If they're doing something interesting, I'll have them start to play a game, and like when they're chasing each other around the house, we just had them do that and we just film them. And that really like opens people up to being in front of the camera, because then they forget about us and forget it's a film and they just start being.
What's night?
Niche. Family niche. Dark night.
Damn niche.
And how did you prepare Coda for acting? I mean, do you have a lot of rehearsals? Did you give her references? Did you have her watch Rosetta and other films?
In the first chapter, we had some rehearsal time. I had her working with an acting coach for maybe like 1 or 2 days, just so she could feel comfortable around the camera. I would go off and sort of film her with like a DV cam in Coney Island, just to, get her used to being like me, being like in her face and talking. But she was really, really natural. Being on a film set is weird, and what we do is really strange. But I think she was used to and ready to do something like this. Rosetta and Summer with Monica were the two films that I told her to watch. They're two films with two very strong female protagonists who always don't do the right thing, but they're really focused on surviving. And the rest, I really just wanted her to experience it as it was happening, and she was really, really good at that.
What if I'm forgotten?
Production was interesting because we had a lot of starts and stops. So there was a lot of COVID emergencies that we had to stop for. Originally, we were supposed to just shoot for a year, and then it ended up being 3. So there was a lot of challenges all the way through. A lot of the summer chapter we shot out of order. So we shot like the parade and her at Coney Island before we shot spring and summer. It was chaotic. It was a very challenging production, but I think every production has its own challenges, and you're shooting during like right at the tail end of the pandemic, and we were still dealing with a lot of that. So, and then of course funding. Like, that's always a thing.
What?
I want to go.
How long?
Might be for a while.
The script was constantly changing. Like the Ukraine war was not in the script at all. Like, of course, like from the beginning, I decided I was like, whatever happens in the real world, we have to reflect that in the film. So that was like a rule from the beginning. And we finished the winter chapter where he goes back to Ukraine right before the war started. That was a really hard decision to include it, but if we didn't include it, we would be living or portraying some like a fantasy world. So and then I live in South Brooklyn. It's like a Ukrainian, Russian, Georgian neighborhood, and that was very, very real and palpable.
Then
That's not Ukrainian?
that's day.
I did most of the DV stuff. There was a box of DV tapes that I found, and I always wanted to shoot something on them, and so I was like, I'm gonna save it for a movie. I wanted to shoot the whole film on DV tapes and short ends, but of course my producers are like, no, you should probably just shoot it on like 16 and it would look great. And of course I'm not going to disagree with that. With the archival material, I was like, well, there needed to be something that still captured the feeling of the city and really being aware of how small you are in the midst of everyone. Like naturally, I always sort of lean into mixed media and experimental filmmaking. And so that's where the archival came from. And then Nelson Sullivan's archive, I was familiar with him before I even moved to New York. There's a YouTube channel that has all of his whole archive called the Fifth Avenue Project. A lot of really beautiful, simple stuff. And I had always wanted to sort of somehow put that in a film. It feels very natural to fall into that. The mixed media approach, I love doing it, but it is always out of a necessity like that I use it sometimes because when you run out of film, you can film on DV for hours and hours and doesn't cost much. The tape is like $1 and like it's a very cheap way to incorporate texture.
We're all just time. Once upon a time. I read that in the YouTube comments once.
I really wanted you to tell me about the choice of the title.
The film's original title is Flotsam Jetsam, which to me now is kind of ridiculous. Those are nautical terms for like lost, trash, like from a ship or lost cargo. There were so many films called that. Throughout the film, I was listening to a lot of Laura Nyro. When you listen to her songs and you're walking around, especially like early in the morning, the images before your eyes fit with the music. And the word described what I was trying to capture is this very fragile but bursting with life place. It was her own word. It was her made up word to describe the city. And I thought that was perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruno.